And good morning and welcome. It's time for us to go through the newspaper review this morning right here on Alpha Jiri. I'm Jeff Mote. I'm joined by Ken Bosire.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And shocking headline right there. And it's an issue that usually when it comes to Kenyan society, it's one of those things you like to sweep under the carpet, you don't like to talk about. But more and more it's finding itself right in the fore, in public discourse. Our leaders are part of this, and now it's an issue that just needs to be addressed. And it's a gay storm, of course, in the Anglican Church. ACK head Jackson Olesapit caught in between, the secular law and dogma of faith, of course, in this particular argument, pitting three clerics tossed off the pulpit over alleged claims of homosexuality. He's decided to remain silent as far as this is concerned for now. But it is putting him between, a rock and a hard place, because it seems like most of the congregation wanted nothing to do with the trio. But at the end of the day, he has to show the way forward. He has to lead in this particular case.
True. It's a difficult position because, remember, a little back, the Kenyan church decided to dissociate itself from the mother church in England, which had embraced gay clerics and even women. So this is an issue that they've been trying to run away from. But here it finds itself at the heart of the church in Kenya. As much as they wanted to run away from it, this matter has been simmering in the courts for a while. The three clerics were excommunicated of those links to homosexuality. They're actually accused of having sodomized some boys in church, and they were thrown off the church. They went to court and sought protection, and the Labor Relations Court reinstated them. But that's as far as it went. When they were taken to another position, they tried to go back to the faithful. The faithful said, we'll not have hyenas looking after us. We are the sheep, but just go away. So that has been the storm. So in that particular area in Odaya, in Nyeri, they went back and said, we don't want you. They were actually literally made to flee from the Christians in the parishes. And I think that's why the head of the church had to go there and tell them, these guys are keen on trying to draw attention and draw us into some muck. The only weapon you have against them, just remain silent. Right. But this is a matter that is not likely to go away. The church has to deal with it. It's time, because within its ranks, a lot of these things, a lot of people have been hurt by priests or clerics in the name of wearing the cloth, and they do all manner of things. Because of our conservative nature in society, we've not been able to talk about it. The Anglican Church has to address that issue. Here, they're told you can go back as employees. That's what the Labor Relations Court said. But the faithful are saying you do not have enough faith. You don't have the moral feet to come and stand before us and teach us what is right. And
I think for them also that was quite where things got really dicey for them, in the sense that even if the Labor Court reinstated them, it's bigger than an employee-employer issue when it comes to this particular issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's an issue to do with your faith. And for that, I don't think even the law can help when it comes to such particular matters.
They needed acceptance from their faithful.
Indeed.
And this is what they failed to do. It's not about, that's why I think what the Archbishop is saying, don't give these guys a chance to keep throwing us into the muck. Let them be, because I don't think if they really cared about, and they confessed and said, we've been wrongly accused. These guys are just there to prove a point. They've just to leave a point. And it brings to question in many, many things. Do we have real shepherds deep in faith, or we have employees who work in the church to make money? That's the debate that we really need to look across. As we're talking about the modern church, do we have people who have a calling, or do we have people who are looking for jobs? And this is part of what the discourse is. And clearly, I may not be in a position to judge, but you see, somebody knows that the church has got its own structures to resolve these things, but they resorted to a secular court. That means they have lost faith in their own systems.
Right.
So that conflict for me, if they were people who believed in what they're doing, they would have said, you've been vindicated in whatever way, but because you've lost the faith and the trust in our faithful, we'll go back and do other things as ordinary citizens and lay people in the church. But don't force their way because they want a salary. You can't force me to listen to you as you preach. You can't preach wine And you can't drink wine and preach water. It's just as good as that. Moral issues, faith issues are no in-betweens. You are either there or not there.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. And of course, as we said before, of course, ACK head Jackson Olesapit really will have to make the call on this one. And it's a tough call.
It's a tough call.
Any way you look at it.
Any way you look at it, because I'm sure these guys go back to court and say, they've refused to reinstate us. They are obviously contempt of court. This has Sapit has to exercise and pray more so that he gets the wisdom.
Absolutely.
To make that judgment call.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is when you call for what we usually talk about, that Solomonic wisdom.
Yes,
this is where
yes,
it comes to play.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely. Of course, that's a lead story on the front page of the People Daily. Also on the front page, Kenya power managers spend the 5th day in police cells. Suspects in the 4.5 billion shilling defective transformer tender feed, of course, are freed too late in the day to process their bail. Interesting matters yesterday. Intrigues at the Milimani court.
Yes.
There was a power outage in that particular area. And it's funny because Kenya Power also did release a statement talking about the fact that it wasn't a blackout, but a power outage. People trying to figure out what really is the difference in there.
The bottom line is that there was blackout. Whichever caused it, those are details. I think for me, it's what we call almost a new twist. These guys, this is what they serve us every day. They never, when we need their power most, during the World Cup,
exactly.
we suffered. In the hour when they needed their cases to be heard, they were served in equal measure, that you can, your own thing can keep you down. And, you know, thanks to that power blackout, whatever they call it, those are technical terms, then they've slept in the cells for another day, I'm sure, and I hope in the dark, because they keep us in the dark. You know, one of the moral things about this country, you're given a job to do. And instead of serving, you go out there to look for how much you can make out of it. But I think these managers are taking responsibility. But you and I know that the Kenya power system is rotten. Right from the meter reader who comes around and said, I will not disconnect your power because of this. They hardly read meters. They just sit in their office, earn full allowances for going out to the field, and the crazy bills.
True.
In a house where you are 2-3 guys, we are now getting an average of about 7, 8, 9,000 shillings. And you wonder where this money goes. Now we know that they entered into shady deals. They're trying to balance their books. This is the immorality of our public service. A key sector, Kenya Power, and everybody has been talking about its inefficiencies. And it's time for it. Unless they check it out, it's going to go the same way. And I think we need to liberalize the power sector. That is what we should be talking about now. Not giving Kenya Power. This is what you do to monopolies. It happened with the Kenya Post and Telecommunications. It became an impossible thing to deal with. And finally, when the sector was liberalized,
look at it now.
They died. And this is where Kenya Power is headed. And the government has to say, enough is enough. Let's just open the sector to other players. So that at the bottom line is that we need services that are efficient to everybody else. And you know,
part of all of this is the fact that, like you said, it being a monopoly, there are so many questions that are asked. Of course, there's a whole issue of, in fact, of buying tokens.
Yes.
Because people are trying to get to the bottom of how, you know, this week I'm buying 500 worth of tokens, I get 2. Next week it's 1. The following week it's 10. And it's the same 500 bob I'm using. What really is going on there? And then off the back of that, we realize not that was the only issue. There's also a defective transformers.
Yes.
And, you know, it's gone into a point where even the public are talking about the fact that, okay, fine, if you had to do this tender, you know, in an untoward manner, it's fine. But why did you have to bring defective transformers?
True, because somebody just went and collected something from some garbage place and brought them here and pocketed the money and walked away. Are we sure even those things were imported? I suspect these are some of the old things that are just reached somewhere at the port.
Probably refurbished.
Not even refurbished. They reach somewhere along the way. The truck does a detour, and it's back in Nairobi and say, they clean them somewhere in the bush and say, this is it, what we have. Because there must be a guarantee for what you buy. You can't bring thousands of transformers and suddenly discover that they are not working. What kind of business is that? What is the due diligence? We have engineers who are supposed to test these things. And by the way, part of it, this looking east has brought us a lot of anguish. While it's given us access to 1 or 2 things, we are getting things that are just a raw deal. Because you say cheap is costly. this is what we are getting.
Exactly.
And people have been stealing from us. And I hope this suit that was brought by consumers against the Kenya Power, why don't they seek to be enjoined? I think we need to be enjoined and say, okay, these guys have a case to answer. They are billing us. Refund our cash.
It is indeed an issue.
This is a big issue.
And that's what I was saying, when you realize that, in fact, even the public have decided to lower the standard upon which they're holding public officers.
Yes.
And talking about the fact that, okay, fine, we saw what you did with the tendering, but why did you tender for wrong, defective equipment in the first place?
It can't get as low as it has gotten.
Okay, so they spend another night in the cells due to that particular blackout that came from their very own company, and we'll wait and see how this case progresses.
I pray there's another blackout to do.
Oh my goodness, still on the front page of the PD, 4 family bank staff remanded over 20 million shilling heist in their Ruiru branch. A really brazen attempt to walk away with that kind of money.
What's wrong with the Ruiru Thika?
It seems like masterminds of crime are working overtime.
They're just making very weird, digging tunnels. This time they come through the kitchen roof. But what is disturbing about this is that these staffers are being linked to this kind of thing. It's an inside job. And 20 million shillings in the face of what we are hearing of thefts and everything is nothing. And you're 4 of you. Each get 5 million, if at all you get it. You're going to pay the guys who are welding to get down there. And finally, you are in court now. You'll be jailed. You get nothing out. You're cannibalizing yourself because you do not need this. This is what we say. What is it that governs? What are the values that govern us? If I can't trust you to do what? To safeguard my money. If an employer can't trust their own employees, then what are we talking about? Would you have a society that has any moral compass? We're going south, north, and everywhere, and finally, all we do is just steal.
It's sad. It seems like at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where everyone wants to get rich by any means necessary.
For what? To make them, to cater for the emptiness in their souls, or where? You can only steal so much. I did mention to somebody last week that in all these stealings, there are also guys, you've been to church, you see eulogies. I've never seen anybody saying, so-and-so has died and he owns 20 million shillings in the bank account. It's just vanity. Steal so much, and yet you just go the same way. Naked as you came, and sometimes we are polite to buy your suit when you wrap your body, but we can as well toss you into the pit.
Interesting school of thought right there. And of course, you can get the details on those 4 family bank staff and what's going on that particular issue on the 5th page of the People Daily. Some tough news for all Kenyans, tough times ahead. Consumer prices set to go up next month as Treasury Cabinet Secretary unveils new excise duty rates. It's affecting water, juices as well. So if you are one of those people, of course, it's time to tighten the so-called belt. But
the interesting thing, these rates, but I think this is just the little thing that touches the upper middle class guys who are commodities that are not likely to be price sensitive. But coming September, we are going to have that 16% VAT on fuel. And you know, that is really going to hit us. But
really hard.
The trajectory is that generally the cost of living has gone up and incomes are not going up. Tough times ahead, true.
It's going to be time for bracing that belt, of course, and it's going to be interesting times, like you said, especially in September, because with the cost of fuel, everything else is affected by that particular commodity.
Yes.
So, of course, we'll wait and see how that changes, or if there will be a change of heart as we move forward on that.
Do we ever change heart? We just think of shredding more pockets to raid them further. You finally see off some flesh, thinking it's the money you're looking for.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. Of course, you can get more details of that on page 15 of the PD. On page 2, it's all about rhinos that were being transported and along en route, of course, died, and that's why Balala wants to get to the bottom of this issue. He's wondering what's going on with the KWS, and the quote right there is, "I want to know what killed these particular rhinos." CS directs all probe reports from government chemist post-mortem to be presented to him first to rule out foul play on that. And of course, he's cast aspersions on the sincerity of KWS over the death of 9 black rhinos. This happened last week. He's demanding a full explanation on the death of the rhinos that are being translocated from Tsavo National Park. And he said that this just, it's unforgivable what happened here. Of course, somebody did drop the ball, and he's wondering what happened. 9 rhinos of good health before they left the park and died en route.
This is genocide of the rhinos, because they're supposed, that is a very costly, and it was a lot of fanfare and all the money. I'm just thinking about how much money they spent, the stress the animals went through, and somebody just pushed them out there to go and die. Somebody needs to answer for this. Somebody needs to be brought to court and tell us, we spend so much money protecting these animals, and somebody careless somewhere drops the ball, and there it is. We cannot have, this is the death of a heritage. This for me is what we call economic sabotage. Do we have people? It's something that runs through the public service. There are people just not doing diligent enough to do their jobs. And why didn't they report to the minister that this has happened? I think the minister's got a right to be furious. Kenyans have a right to be furious that we've been taken for a ride. You remember it was all on television, removing these things, all the details. Then you take them to their death chambers. That was wrong. And these are animals that we are trying to protect.
Indeed.
And you go and...
That was the whole reason for moving them in the first place.
Then you go and kill them. Now this nonsense about, oh, the rhino, we can account for all the horns. That's not the problem. After that, they will be accounted for and they will disappear. Yes. Is there somebody within? Heads have to roll.
Indeed.
Yes.
Especially for this particular issue. And we're waiting to see if Balala will actually do exactly that and hold someone accountable for this particular saga on that. Before we move to page 3 with Michael Moriah right there, hotel remains tight-lipped on legislator lockout saga. This, of course, being about the Sunshine Hotel in Kericho, which refused to admit a certain legislator and her husband because they didn't have marriage certificates.
What is so sunshine about that hotel? The hotel is crazy. If they want to walk around looking like holding the moral candle, I think these churches that pretend to be doing business that does not belong to them, let them go back to church and do what they have to do. In any case, how many of us walk around with marriage certificates?
None. I don't know anyone who walks with a marriage certificate.
How many other documents do you walk around with? I just posed a question the other day. How about if a boy and a boy just went in with this gay debate around? How would they ask for them? How would they know this is? And this business that each time you walk into a room with a member of the opposite sex, you're just going to misbehave. It's stupid. It's a very, very, very thin, stupid way of looking at things. They should try. They should try. They are not going to police you with that because next week there are things going to happen. If the church can't do business that is really business the way it is, then it better go back to the pulpit. Maybe
and stick to that.
Stick to that. You can't pretend. And it's a choice. If I want to go into these places, then they should be classified and say this is not it. But this documentation, I think it's discrimination. And they should now say, you know, that's even happening up in the laws are saying that if you stick with somebody for 6 months, come we stay, it's now a marriage. Yes. So how are you going to get a certificate for say, we stayed for 5, 6, 7 months, we have a paper. It's a process. Just trust the people to do what they do because that church is the one that has failed to do what it has to do to keep us upright.
Indeed. Okay, so of course, Catherine Warogoro also said she's going to take this particular hotel to court. We'll wait and see if that happens. Let's move on to page 3 right now. And it's very interesting. Off the back of what happened yesterday at Milimani Law Courts, Kenya Power senior management in court, they suffer a blackout. And you're thinking, wow, how absurd. As always, Michael Moriah says, hold my drink. I'll show you something else right here. It's perfect timing or absurdity of irony. That's the question he wants to answer today.
Irony of irony. In the early, I think, 2000s, an artist from Canada named Alanis Morissette actually released a song that just basically poked fun at all life's ironies. And I think she just go back into the studio based on what we have here on page 3. Starting off like with what Jeff mentioned, basically how the lights went off yesterday at Milimani Law Courts, where Kenya Power managers were applying for bail. So basically the power outage interrupted the bail application hearing for 14 suspended Kenya Power officials accused of economic crimes. The incidents, of course, do very varying reactions from Kenyans on social media. There's also another story here. This was in England. The Views cinema in Exeter, England, had to cancel the screening of the movie Noah that roughly tells the same tale due to flooding in the movie theater. Now, the unfortunate incident was reportedly caused by a faulty ice machine, which probably quenched the thirst of theater goers craving for the real flood experience. Then this happened in the 80s in Orlando, Florida. 12 members of a jury got stuck in a court elevator for almost an hour. And you know what the irony is? The jurors on their way to hear a negligent case against the same company that made the elevators. Of course, this happened in India, where basically power went off 3 times during a press conference where Piyush Goyal, India's Union Minister for Energy, was presenting the achievements of his ministry in the power sector. This is hilarious. So MPs, this was in West Virginia in the United States, they passed a law allowing the drinking of raw milk, but fell ill after drinking it in a celebration. So of course they went down with stomach discomfort, which ironically coincided with reporters' press conference over the legislation. So basically they were saying it's fine to drink raw milk, you don't need to pasteurize it, and there we go, they got sick. Then in 2015, a pastor from New Orleans collapsed and died in the middle of a sermon in the Greater St. Mary Baptist Church after declaring to his congregation, "If the Lord calls me now, I'm ready." I guess the Lord listens, Jeff. Wow.
Amazing stuff right there, of course. So next time, before you make that declaration that you're ready for the Lord's call, think twice.
You know.
Thank you so much for that, Shiro. And thanks, Bosire, for taking us through the papers this morning. Of course, lots to look forward to. We'll wait and see how this particular KWS saga transpires. Also, the Kenya Power and the hearing that's supposed to be going on that side. They've been given bail as well. But let's wait and see if the actual services that they are supposed to be giving to the citizens actually works this time around when they're in the cells.
They should be served their own menu.